So occasionally I get asked by young creatives, specifically young animators or young filmmakers, what should they be doing? Where should they be spending the bulk of their time in those crucial few months just post graduating? The generic answer to that is often it depends on what you want to do, but let's go a step further than that and let us explore a couple of actual scenarios of what you might want to concentrate on depending on what kind of creative you are, because we cannot assume that every artist is the same type of artist. Let us also assume a couple of things that I'm going to take from my personal experience with creatives, commercial creatives, and people kind of in the commercial art sphere as far as animation, filmmaking, maybe a little bit of marketing goes. I'm not such a marketing person, but some of this might apply there as well. And let's lump them into three distinct categories: the creators, the technical artists, and the concept artists. These three Venn diagrams can intersect a lot depending on the type of person you are. They have three distinct approaches to what they want to do. The creators, in my mind, are big ideas people. They have stories. Their stories are too big and their resources are too small, basically. Maybe they're not super artsy, maybe they're not super technical, but they have ideas and they have a lot of them. They are creator types. They are story focused, perhaps. They want to be kind of at the top of the decision-making pile. They want to be where the directors are, the art directors are, the story writers are. They want to be in the writer's room. I consider myself to be this type of person, by the way. Like, I have some concept art knowledge as well. Like, I'm a bit of a mix of a creator and a concept artist, but we'll get into that shortly. Probably each creator is a fair mix of most of these. But you may, especially in your bid to kind of find your way into the industry, you may focus on one particular skill set that you have, that you know you can specifically charge for and that you can do reliably and repeatably in a professional setting. You know, it's clear, especially with students, that they have multiple interests. They have their interests shoot off in all different kinds of directions and they don't quite know how to synthesize all of that into a single portfolio. That's fine, because ultimately the thing that decides what goes in a professional portfolio is what is the thing you can charge for. Yes, you contain multitudes, but what is the specific personality and the specific skill set you have that you would be comfortable asking a person money for? So that's creators. Technical artists. Technical artists do not want to make creative decisions, largely. They want to have a job, they want to know that specific job inside and outside, they want the exact parameters of that job, and they will do the best possible work they can with it, but they need all the specs up front. They need a clear brief up front, and they will figure out, they're okay with like figuring out some stuff to do the job, but they need to know exactly what you want. So what they want to be briefed, they want to have the resources, and then that frees them up to noodle with all the little technical requirements for that specific job. They want the technical specs, the kit to do it, and the time to do it, and they're good. So then we have the concept artist. Shares a lot with the technical artist, at least in terms of like what the outworkings of their portfolio management is going to be. But they are not creators in the sense that they necessarily want to come up with the big ideas or the world or the writing or the storyboarding ahead of time. They also kind of want a brief. They want to get technically creative, but within the realm of art making and world making and prop making and design making and vehicle making. That's what they want. They don't necessarily want to storyboard or worry about the story structure, think about the politics of creativity. They want to think about the intricate specifics of creativity, visually, in the colors, in the lighting, in the production design, all of that good stuff. So they want to get noodly about art details. Okay, so we've defined our three types of creatives: the people with the big stories, the technical artists, and the concept artists. So how do these three types of people start to build either a brand, or how do they start to build their professional portfolios that will get sent out into the world? How do they announce to the world that they're here? Well, I have a few thoughts on this. Firstly, from the creator's point of view, as a creator type, you may have had a chance to get your hand on like a story. You may have more stories in your back pocket. You maybe have been working on things behind the scenes. You may have a comic somewhere back there, maybe another short film pitch. My advice is get those stories on paper somewhere. Put them into a very rough pitch. List them somewhere so that you can get to them later. Rough out a couple of outlines for them and put those away. You can get to them later. You don't have to get to all of them right now. Build an arsenal of stories that you can start to pitch to people in various different forms. The three ways I like to pitch stories, or I like to start to develop stories, is one, by putting a pitch package together. This is good for television shows, for feature film stories. In other words, for stories you couldn't possibly do by yourself. For stories you could possibly do by yourself, I like comics as a contained choice universe. And I like short films as a contained choice universe. But short films are my particular preference, being a storyboard artist who can do the entire storyboard by myself. I like those. So if you have big stories and very few resources, pitch packages are probably the biggest impact, lowest input. Game design, we have what's called a minimum viable product. Film or television ideas, or even a book concept that you want to have, a pitch is a great minimum viable product. It forces you to start to think about, like, what's the appealing selling points of your product. If you really just are itching to get into a story and you're tired of waiting for other people's permission to get into a story, start drafting something start writing a short film, start writing a comic, just to kind of get that itch scratched. Look into internships where you can specifically expand these creator-writer instincts that you have. Maybe there isn't a storyboarding internship, but if you don't have storyboarding skills, get some storyboarding skills. I highly recommend it. You can start with my channel. It's got some good stuff. Maybe look around for some funding opportunities for your short film or for your book. Get familiar with funding. Get familiar with the flow and the commonalities in funding. Get some of your admin together. In other words, kind of always be pitch ready. So that's creators. For technical artists, the portfolio situation is pretty traditional. You want to put together a PDF video portfolio of the work that you do, whether that's modeling, rigging, lighting, whatever it is you do. You want to put up a website, and you want to start courting companies. I don't really recommend, if you're a technical artist with a highly specified type of portfolio, that you bother with a lot of social media work. The only kind of social media I recommend you really bother with, especially if you're a South African creator, is maybe just LinkedIn. Find the companies you want to put your work in front of and put it in front of them. Cold call these companies. Just get a list of, let's call it a minimum of 50 to 100 companies. Get those numbers, work through it systematically over the course of a few weeks, and put your portfolio in those people's inboxes. Really strenuously go over portfolios again and again and again. I recommend it for a video portfolio, maybe no longer than 1 minute or so. Don't really have to repeat projects that you worked on, so you don't have to pepper the one big project you worked on throughout your whole portfolio. Just take 1 or 2 good shots from that and put it in there. I'd rather see a variety of work rather than feel like things are getting repetitive. Maybe make a fun music choice that is not totally overpowering the work, and always label what you did in those specific portfolios. If you're showing a really cool shot of, I don't know, a gorilla blasting through a city or something like that, say, I did the fur on the gorilla. Put it somewhere there on the frame for people to be able to look back at, for your potential employers to look back at. You are pitching this largely at colleagues, at other technical artists, so you can be sure that they will ask those specific questions. List there on the video the softwares you use, the softwares you're proficient at, and do, for God's sake, put your contact details on your video. For concept artists, the process is largely the same. PDF portfolio is also fine for that, especially for sort of static artworks that don't really need, the power of video to really fully appreciate the artwork. Also, keep it short. Don't be too repetitive with projects. Choose only the best bits to put in your project. And like, maybe if you feel like you're a little bit light, or like your course was a little bit light on actual concept art, or like you really need to level up your concept art, maybe team up with a creator type. Maybe use your creator skills and put a pitch deck together with somebody who you're friends with, who you know has some really cool ideas. Maybe do kind of a trade exchange for that, so that you can get a good portfolio piece and they can get some great art. Also put up a website. Also court companies on LinkedIn. Also cold call as many people as possible. In the cold calling, I really do recommend, don't waste your effort on companies that are not interested in your specific vibe. I learned this as a storyboard artist, for instance, where I could have sent my stuff to marketing agencies, but what I really needed to do was actually send my storyboarding work to film production companies that worked with marketing agencies. Yes, marketing agencies do their own storyboards sometimes, but they often leave that to the production company after the fact to find a storyboard artist. The same way as the marketing agency wouldn't be the people to worry about who the cinematographer is going to be, or worry about how we're going to take pictures. Like, yes, someone on the marketing team might be a photographer and have some really good input with their photography, but they're not going to be the cine for the TVC that goes out, for the TV commercial that goes out afterwards. Similar in that way, I need not have bothered going to marketing agencies with my storyboarding portfolio. So look for people who specifically want your work. For technical artists, that might be animation and visual effects houses. For concept artists, I actually recommend game studios, especially indie dev game studios, who are doing all of the art right up front and doing all of the coding. And often the art is kind of there isn't really an animation production department in there. They might be in really big AAA kind of places, but you may have to do a ton of art up front, and then the mechanics of the coding there afterwards will just be manipulating that art for the game, which is a very kind of a specialty of indie dev work. So if you can get some work in a 2D animation pipeline or on a 2D animation show or something, obviously first prize. But that might be an unexpected place to find your spot in. Other places you could look as a concept artist is the art departments of film studios, film houses, and so on. That might be a line of questioning to ask these art houses, like, who are your art directors? Do they want concept art portfolios? Like, narrow your search down somewhat, and you might be surprised what feedback you get. I will say, just in general, for all three of these people, creators, technical artists, and concept artists, the important thing is to put your work in front of the people who are most likely to want to work with you.